Velkommen alle sammen! What I have done on some other videos is speak about what the Old Norse sources say about blót, about their sacrifices, the holy days and high festivals, and how they were practiced in pagan times. I've also done videos on my makeshift blót. Of course, these are crappy and small, but I really don't have the resources to do a blót like they would have done in pagan times historically accurately. This is just the best I can do with my current situation, the videos that you've seen me do here. Now, to do a blót in the real historical correct way in modern times, it would cost probably hundreds of thousands. Honestly, it takes a big chunk of land, a hall, animals, event and organizing, and I'm sure some legal hoops and permits that you have to jump through. But believe me, I'm working on it. Business, investments, the MMA, the real estate, it's a big challenge financially, but at some point in the next 5 or 10 years, mark my words, I will have it. It's my life goal. So that's what I'm doing this video about, because some of you may already have this. Some of you might already have the land and the resources to do a blót exactly like it could have been done in pagan times, and other people, this may be your dream. So that's what this video is all about. If we did have the resources to practice the blót 100% historically accurate, what would it be like? So there were, of course, lots of different ways at different times and different places that the blóts and high festivals were practiced in ancient times. I'm going to speak about the geblōt here because that's actually coming up next month, and we have almost no sources about that one really, so there's a lot more room to fill in the blanks with this one. So let's get the date right first of all. Geblōt would be at the start of summer in the Norse calendar, and as you know, full moons would always be the preferred dates for the blóts and all spiritual activities in the Norse beliefs pretty much. So this would be the full moon in April. Now, some blóts like Jul or Vetternatter, they were definitely 3 days or more, as we have seen in the sources. It doesn't seem like the geblōt was 3 days celebration though, but I would do it for the hell of it anyway. I would make it a 3-day celebration, so the actual animal sacrifice and the spiritual rituals would have for sure been on the evening of the full moon. But early enough in the day actually, so you still had time to butcher the animal and cook the meat. So the sacrifice would have probably happened in the late afternoon sometime, and then we eat and party in the evening. So if it's a 3-day festival, the question would be, well, what about the other 2 days, right? Would those be before or after the full moon sacrifice? The sources don't say, but I definitely think it's after. You know, people should be going into the blót, into this holy day, you know, pure and even on a fasted stomach, as I will speak about in a minute. So it probably is not a great idea to be doing the blót when you're still hungover and fat from the night before. So my guess is blót and the ceremony on the night of the full moon, and then party 2 days after that. Next, let's speak about the location. Now, before we go on, the village and homestead that I have in mind that I'm going to be setting up is definitely going to be not more than 100, maybe even just 50 people at the start. So we would have a good chunk of land there and plenty of animals, plenty of livestock. And in the homestead center, that would be the feasting hall. Now, the feasting hall, I have already promised that I would, you know, pay my friend Matthias to do the full design. Guys, you gotta check out his work. He has a YouTube channel that he just started here too, and a shop where you can see he does some amazing work, not some cringe pagan wood carving thing trying to copy what they see on Vikings. No, the Pagan Workshop here makes replicas of the archaeological finds that we have, and he's a really talented and a really historical artist. So I hope you guys will all follow his channel, and I hope in the next couple of years I will bring him to design my entire hall in my homestead and pay him to do that. But that's hopes and dreams, so let's see. Back to the blót. But it's important to know that the actual blót, the sacrifice, does not take place in the feasting hall, contrary to the main belief. The blóts would have taken place quite a distance away from the homestead in a sacred place in nature. We would find a nearby grove maybe, or a natural spring, or a waterfall, or a very old tree. These are all places in the sources that were said to be sacred and where the religious ceremonies would have been practiced. Then, at this sacred place, we would be building a hörgr, the Old Norse altar, and it's basically just a pile of stones, or even a stone slab, or sometimes if there's a natural stone or rock formation in this sacred place, that's where the central spots of the blót would be, and that's where we would slaughter the animal. We would also build some type of wall of stones around the whole area, and this is the enclosure that we read about in the sources, and we still see in many of these sacred places in Scandinavia, like I'm showing you in this video here. Even 1,000 years, these walls are still here, and the wall of stones is basically just to keep the good spirits and energy in and keep the bad stuff out. And if you want to see an example of a holy site from ancient times, watch my video that I did last month where I just stumbled upon one in my hometown in Norway I didn't even know existed. It's picture perfect to a T. It has all the characteristics of a holy religious site from pagan times. What we would also do is maybe build a small temple at this religious site. We do have some sources of Norse temples, but originally us Germanic peoples did not have temples like other cultures did in Europe and other cultures around the world. Our temples were in nature, so I'm not a big fan of temples, but whatever, build one if you want. It's your place, you can do whatever you want, set up the statues of gods if you like. Just remember that the temple is not the party place. We are at least a 5 or 10 minute walk away into the forest from the feasting hall, but the temple should be there in nature. If you do have a temple there, make sure it's not just some place that you hang out at. It needs to be some place where the animals and things that would take it would be coming to receive it, basically. Now we would get on to the actual practice of the blót. So let's say my homestead is a village or a tribe of 50 to 100 people. Maybe we have 50 to 100 guests coming in, traveling. I would provide the sacrifice. We would probably take a bull or a horse from our farm to do the blót. Now these stores of sacrifices, they slaughtered at least 9 species of each animal. 90 animals, 99 animals or something like that we have in some sources. That would be only for the major blóts, every maybe 3 years or every 9 years, something like that. Thousands of people would have been there, the whole country for the most part, so in that case, that would be needed, that many animals to feed that many people who were coming. But for my blót, just 100 or 200 people, 1 bull should be plenty of meat to feed us all for a few days. But guests and other people too would be bringing some food and some things to offer and some things to contribute to the festival. It's the host village that is providing the place and the offering and the lodging, and the guests, they should bring something too. We can't just have a bunch of freeloading bums showing up. So, and remember Havamal, right? The Old Norse kind of poem of ethics. It has many stanzas about how to be a good guest and how to bring something too if you're being a guest. So, very important. The guests then arrive in the morning of the blót, of the full moon, and then ideally we will all be fasting today, not eating. This helps with spiritual experiences. We have one source that mentions the Saxons, which were a Germanic people. They would fast to the full moon, and lots of sources of fasting actually in the folk tradition and in spiritual practices and rituals and magic. So nobody would be eating this day until the evening. And then we basically walk from the village to the sacred site with the bull and the other offerings, you know, any kinds of food or gifts you want to give, flowers, statues, anything you want to leave out in nature, really. And then we get there, and to open the ceremony, we walk around 3 times counterclockwise around the area. We have sources for this in the folk tradition and also the old sagas that this was done. The purpose was to wake up the spirits that were there already, and also gather the energy from the spirits in the nearby area, kind of like a whirlpool. See my video that I did on that. Now, if you just have a small altar or a temple that you can walk around, that's good. But if you have a larger area, like would be in a normal sacred site, you would want to ride your horse around. And we actually have a source about that where the king rode around the temple before the blót that was done in Ynglinga Saga. I forget the king's name, but I'll put it all up here. Now, super cool. A lot of these holy places in Scandinavia have something that's called a hulvei. It's basically a ditch that was dug out and used by horses, kind of like a... They call it a Viking highway, but I think they're not quite right. These holes were probably dug to make the 3-time counterclockwise horse ride around the sacred site a little bit smoother. The 3 circles should be smooth and quick when they're going around. I don't want to be riding my damn horse and fucking zigzags through the dense forest and bushes and getting smacked in the face by twigs and all that time. No, the spirits and the energy around, if they saw me doing that, they think, oh, what the hell is this guy doing riding around in the forest getting smacked by all these branches? No, the circles should be swift and smooth and going around it quickly, so then the spirits get attracted and they say, oh, look at the circles that guy is riding, so smooth and quick, let's go and see. This is the general idea, how people attract the spirits. So I would be riding around circles on the horse around this religious site, and at the same time, to attract the spirits, there would be a woman singing something called onlookers. Those are songs to call the spirits to the area, just like was done in Erik the Red Saga, where the völva about to perform seiðir had a girl sing these songs. We don't know what the lyrics were to these songs. We don't know the actual words that there are to call the spirits, so we have to reconstruct these things, but honestly, any beautiful girl with a great voice probably works just fine to call the spirits. Have you ever noticed how really beautiful women have a certain energy about them when they walk into a room, and especially if a woman has a powerful voice, it changes the whole energy in the room, doesn't it? And that's just the spirits that are following her, like a bunch of simps, honestly. Sorry ladies, but masculine spirits don't behave that much differently in the spirit world as they do in our world, so the onlookers would be a song to bring the spirits, and just like that. Just be aware, the geblōt that I'm talking about right now is for victory, so we would be mainly calling upon Odin and other spirits that would be associated with victory, mostly masculine spirits, but also the Valkyries too. I hope by that time I'll have the financing to afford all this. I hope that I'll still be fighting MMA by then, hopefully at the highest level, and it would help bring me victory for the coming fights of the season. But of course, anyone who is there and wants some victory in their life, kids in their sports, or friends or family in their business, if they want victory there, or in any type of competition, anyone here can benefit from the geblōt that we're doing here. Then, to start off the actual sacrifice, the godi would come out, so the religious leader, the priest. It's not really my thing. I wouldn't really want to be a godi. I would rather someone else do it. I'm not that good at those types of things. So the religious leader in the Norse world basically spent his whole life working on spiritual things, and it was not everyone who could do this. In fact, I forget the source, I think it was Olav Tryggvason's saga, but it mentioned how there was only like 7 godi in the Trondheim area who were actually knowledgeable about how to do these blōt. So many thousands of people, and only a small handful of them actually knew how to perform the blōt in the correct way. Unfortunately, all these ways are lost, and we don't have those people still alive today, so we would have to experiment with things. And a godi who has tested out these things for many years would be able to tell us, what exactly works best and what doesn't. But we do know a few more things from the sources, which I'm going to go over now. First, maybe a prayer invoking Odin would be said, preferably in Old Norse or Proto-Germanic, which I would make sure that everyone in the village at least tries to learn as much as they can. I'm not a big fan of prayer, though. That's not my thing. I don't know how much it really helps, but that would definitely be something done if people wanted to. Then the godi would get up on the hörgir, the pile of stones, with the bull, preferably maybe even a horse actually, because that's more associated with Odin for the geblōt. Godi would slaughter it, let the blood run down the pile of rocks, redden the hörgir with blood, like they do in a couple sources. The godi would also be wearing an arm ring reddened with blood, like there was a law in old Iceland at the time. Then some blood would be collected into wooden cups. Twigs would be used to dip in those cups into the blood, and you sprinkle that shit everywhere, on the hörgir, on the trees, on the temple, everywhere, on everybody. The blóts I went to in Norway a long time ago, actually, each person came forward and sprinkled blood on the hörgir, and I think it's pretty cool that everyone does that, everyone takes turns. Then those who would like to would drink the blood. All over the world, we have records of tribes drinking the blood of a freshly sacrificed animal and actually working themselves up into a frenzy, like a mad trance, and they believed that they were being possessed by the gods for a short amount of time, and they would get visions and power and wisdom from this. I can't comment, I've never done this, but I don't ignore it either. I haven't drank blood from a fresh slaughtered animal, but there are certain chemicals that do get released from the brain into the blood in a human or animal's last breath. So I don't disbelieve it either. I will try myself one day, but it might not be allowed with some health regulations possibly. But yeah, it was definitely done all over the world, and we do have a source here that drinking the blood from a sacrificial bull or licking it was done in the Norse world too, specifically by the Swedes, who tend to be the more spiritual of the Scandinavian countries. So that's about it for the blót ceremony. Then it would be the butchering of the animal. Contrary to popular belief, we didn't just kill the animal like savages and leave it there out in nature to waste. It was always cooked. This shouldn't even really be called a sacrifice. It's really just a basic slaughter and butcher done in a religious, ritualistic type of way. Same thing as like kosher or halal meat. There's nothing weird or cult-like or evil about a Norse sacrifice. It's just a ritual preparation of food. The only thing that we would actually leave out in nature is the things that we didn't use, the inedible parts of the animal, and we would leave those out on the hörgir or up in the trees or in nature to take. Mostly it would be predatory birds like the ravens, who was believed that the gods could possess those, and it's an offering to nature and the gods and the spirits. They need to be able to take it somehow, like I said, in a place that's easily accessible. That's why I'm not a big fan of temples or indoor altars. Then we get to the festivities. Now people here would go back from the sacred place to the village into the feasting hall, but others looking to do more spiritual work might stay at the sacred place, at the hörgir. Maybe those looking to get a bit more spiritual gains, they would continue their fast and not eat. Maybe they would eat or smoke some psychoactive substances. They could practice utiseta, meditation, trance work, or anything else, just when things have quieted down, and maybe stay out the night at the sacred space. So I would definitely be doing that and see what types of things may show up and see what types of things we can use to benefit from this. Then we have 2 more nights of party, so I would make the first night a sober kind of spiritual experience, and then the next 2 nights party time. And the others, of course, who are not interested in that first spiritual, staying out in the night, would go back to the hall, drink, eat. The meat would be boiled. There would be sambal, they would swear oaths, pass drinks over the fire, and make toasts to the gods, or kings, or whoever, and just get lit, get drunk, have a good time. You know me, if it was up to me, my village, we would have an underground, dark bunker basement area and have a Berlin-style techno rave, but you guys can all celebrate any way you like. And the same thing would be done for the remaining 2 nights. Daytime activities would be for fun. chilling out, having some games and sports, wrestling, swimming, shooting, horseback riding, maybe skiing if it's in the winter, or even hunting, or if it's in vetternatter, that could be a very important spiritual ritual that was done. Whatever the hell you want, whatever kinds of things keep you entertained. Probably in the daytime is also when the May Queen might be decided. The girls would have games, and then the winner would be crowned the May Queen, and then she would take part in the rituals and the duties that she would be doing, just like was done in the movie Midsommar. We don't really have any Norse sources that speak about this, that it was done, but it seems definitely to be a very old Germanic or even an Indo-European thing that we all did when we were all one people, could be 6, 7, 8,000 years old. Then, second night, we get drunk and feast again. The third day, maybe there would be some types of traditions or rituals to bring fertility and good harvest to the crops in the village. I don't know, maybe there's a marriage too. Maybe one of the guests wants to use this time to get married. Or possibly even there would be some baptisms if there's any newborn children. Yes, the Norse pagans baptized their newborn children and named them at this time too. It's different than the Christian baptism. It was called vatni ausin, but it was still very, very similar. See my video on that. And also possibly some initiation rituals into adulthood for the young men and women might be happening in the daytimes here. And then of course get drunk and party again the third night. Who knows? Celebrate it any way you want. Those are just what some of the sources say, and where I've added a couple things that make sense to do. And that's about it. Then we say goodbye to all our friends and loved ones. You know, great to see you. Can't wait to see you till vetternatter when we meet again, or maybe the Midsommar if we're doing something there, and then we all take our leave. So that's it. That's what we got. We got some sources to play with and create our own traditions. Do it however you like, but as long as we're trying to keep it historically accurate, that's great. Now you all understand why I have made it my life goal to start a village like this. It sounds like paradise the way I describe it. I think it's paradise. I think a lot of you watching think it's paradise too. But this is something our ancestors got to do multiple times a year, and they loved it so much that they still continued to practice the blōts even after Christianity came in and made it illegal. And people would have been put to death basically just for getting together with friends and family for a sacrifice and feast like this. And when you think about it honestly, the situation has not changed that much over 1,000 years, so we're still not able to do this the traditional way. We're allowed to practice the blōt maybe in some countries, you know, depending on the laws and those types of things, but do any of us really have the means or the situation or resources to actually do it? Not really. Anyone that has a farm today in this modern age is probably so buried by debt and so busy that they barely have any time or money to host and organize an event like this. And the people maybe out there that are rich enough to host something like this are too greedy to invite their friends or family for even more than a few hours. Or how about this? Families who have the resources to host an event like this, but they just don't want to invite that many people because they can't get along with each other for a few hours like a bunch of animals. Oh, I'm not inviting your Uncle Mark to the feast because he doesn't get along with Trisha's fiance. Oh, grow up. A bunch of peasants. They can't even get along with their own blood and kin for a few hours. Oh, well, Uncle Mark started it. I just told him off because he deserves it. Man, this is not how it goes. This is not how a tribal good community functions. You know what you do if someone's being an asshole? You take Uncle Mark and you say, hey, look, you know this is wrong. You can't do this. You know, behave yourself, okay? We're all family here. We're trying to get along. And then Mark will behave himself. If he doesn't, and he does it a second time, then I'll get his ass whooped at the next festival. If he does it again a third time and is rude to everybody, guess what? You know the next sacrifice? You know the animal we sacrifice? Yeah, that's gonna be you next time, bitch. This is what human sacrifices were in the Viking Age. They weren't just murdering some poor innocent victim. They were probably just sacrificing the fuckers who kept causing problems and disturbing peace in the village. Another problem today. What if there was even an event like this allowed that we could all go to and we had the resources to do it? How many of us could actually get the time off of work from our bosses on the full moon 3 times a year? your boss would say, what's that? You want 3 or 4 days off work at the full moon in January? No, no, no. The full moon is on a Tuesday today. You have work to do. Yeah, but boss, this is one of our 3 most sacred holidays. It's very important to us. Then your boss says, oh no, the Norse pagans. That's not a real religion, he says. You need to get your ass back to work. You just had 5 days off for Christmas and New Year. Your slave contract you signed here only allows you a certain amount of vacation time and sick time, okay? This is the problem, guys. This is how they keep us down and separated from each other and away from our traditions and the spirituality that gives us power. These traditions that could keep us unified and strong physically, mentally, spiritually, and they take it away from us so we're easy to rule over. Sounds like this has been the plan for 1,000 years now, hasn't it? So you can see why I want to bring it back. Yeah, it's probably going to cost hundreds of thousands, if not millions, and my future wife and kids would probably rather spend that money on a nice Los Angeles mansion here and some nice cars, but there's really nothing I want more in the world than to bring back the old traditions and way of life for our people. And that's all of you, so thank you for watching. Just by watching these videos, you're helping out a lot and helping contribute to the village. And more importantly, most importantly, I hope I can inspire all of you guys to do the same with these videos. This is my goal with it. I'm not gonna lie, my village is not gonna be bigger than 100 people. That's maybe 20, 30 families. But we can all inspire each other to have thousands of these homesteads everywhere. That is the real dream. That's what we really want. So that's all for today. Hope you enjoyed. Vi ses nästa gång.